All right, Switch owners worldwide, we need to have a very important conversation about virtual game cards. This was sort of the strange surprise feature debuted in today's Nintendo Direct that is super confusing, makes no sense, and I've seen lots of people raise their arms in panic like, holy crap, Nintendo is taking away our physical game cards, Nintendo is making it so we can't play on multiple systems, and Nintendo is trying to move towards a digital future where they actually own the games and we don't. Now, that is a lot of apocalyptic doom and gloom thinking for a feature that actually ends up being better for us than what's currently there. And I'm going to show you exactly why in this video and explain to you what's going on with virtual game cards, including the biggest misconception of all that's being falsely reported on a number of different sites when, if we look specifically and use our logic and our reading comprehension skills, we can figure out that what the worry is not actually true. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Virtual game cards. This was a big surprise. This was something that nobody predicted, thought about, expected. Nothing of this sort was really known. And they're over here showing us this grand debut of, hey, you know, you like your little game card? You can lick it. Well, you know, you can't lick a virtual game card. You can put your game cards in different Nintendo Switches, and then you can swap them around. Duh. But what if you could do this digitally? And people are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We already could do this. We already could share our games. We already had a way to just use multiple Switches. I have multiple Switches. Some of you probably have multiple Switches. We don't need virtual game cards. Are they doing away with physical games? What is going on? Now, let me break the myths right off the bat, okay? One, physical games are not going away. Nintendo will be excited to charge you $70 for their Switch 2 games later this year, and they'll happily charge you $60 for some of the games you showed. They showed in today's Nintendo Direct. But the most important thing before we go any deeper is right here, okay? How do virtual game cards work? This comes from Nintendo Life, not Progressive Insurance, and I love Nintendo Life. But once the virtual game card scheme launches via a free update in April 2025, games downloaded via the Nintendo Switch eShop will automatically be converted into a virtual game card. And this is what has people freaked out. Once the virtual game card scheme, first of all, they're calling it a scheme. Second of all, April 2025, it's going to be converted automatically into a virtual game card. And then if you scroll down to their Q&A, will my current digital games be converted to virtual game cards? This wasn't officially confirmed, but our assumption is that yes, current digital games will automatically be converted into virtual game cards. Now, that does sound a little weird, especially if you don't know exactly how you feel about virtual game cards, if you don't think it's a better system, if you're worried, you don't even really fully understand it. Let's go to Nintendo today. Introducing by the way, this is Nintendo's official website. This is nintendo.com/us/what's new. This is their news website, okay? Not from me, from Nintendo. This is straight from the mouth of Miyamoto and Takahashi and everybody else there, okay? Virtual game cards, right? Introducing the virtual game card. Yada, 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 yada. This optional feature. You see that? So first, right off the bat, this is an optional feature. You do not have to convert your digital downloads into virtual game cards if you do not want. Now, I'm going to explain to you why I think it's a much better proposition and why I think you should do it and why you're losing nothing by doing it and you're gaining actually something cool. But if you don't want to, if even the name virtual game card just gives you the ick and you want to stay away from this, Nintendo themselves, contrary to what's being reported, is saying this optional feature right here in their news blurb, Rhythm Heaven Groove, Tamagotchi Plaza, Dragon Quest 1 and 2, virtual game card. This optional feature allows you to view virtual game cards or eject them from your system, okay? If they don't make it optional, I will make a video where we say Nintendo lied, okay? But all I can do right now is, do I trust what I'm reading on websites or do I trust what I'm reading on the Nintendo website? I trust what I'm reading straight from the mouth of Miyamoto, right here. Virtual game card, this optional feature. This optional feature. Now, let me explain to you why it's better, okay? The whole concept of virtual game cards is pretty neat because virtual game cards is allowing you to eject and insert games digitally into multiple Switch systems and share out games like your very own Blockbuster to your Switch Online family members, which could be family members, friends, or just randoms that you found on Discord. The cool part here is that, ready for this? The Switch already did this, but worse, okay? So check this out. Nintendo Switch game sharing. All right, this is straight from a Reddit FAQ about how to Switch game share. You have account 1 that owns digital games or DLC. All right, you first log into Switch A with account 1. Switch A becomes the primary console. Is this starting to sound familiar? Primary and secondary consoles is how Nintendo Switch currently handles your games on two systems. You can load your account on two systems easily. I do it on my Switch OLED and my Switch Lite. Previously, I did it on my OG Switch and my Switch OLED. I even can do it on two Switch Lites and two Switches. I can have my account on all these systems, but when I log into the first Nintendo Switch, the one where I own the games, it is the primary console. Then with the same account, I log into a second Switch and it becomes the secondary console. Now, on Switch B, the secondary console, I can download and play all the games as long as I'm using that profile. As long as I'm using my Zach profile, I can do that, right? Currently, today. No virtual game card needed. But if Switch B, the secondary, is playing one game and Switch A starts any game from the account profile, the game will stop for Switch B. Do you understand how annoying and stupid that is? All right. Now, we go back to virtual game cards. With the virtual game card system here, okay, I can have Switch 1 and my profile. I can buy all these games, and I can give my brother my Switch Lite, okay? Now, he can have the same profile, so he has access to my same library here, okay? The same 8 games that I have here. I can be playing Tears of the Kingdom, but if I eject Splatoon 3 and give it to him, and then he plays Splatoon 3, right? We have one account, we bought Splatoon 3 once, and we bought Tears of the Kingdom once on the same account. He can play Splatoon 3 on my other Switch at the same time as I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, and nothing will happen. Both of us will smile and enjoy our experience, near or far, same Switch, same profile, different games. Now, obviously, we both can't be playing Tears of the Kingdom, but as I just showed you here, we both couldn't be playing Tears of the Kingdom here. And you say, well, Zach, what if I just wasn't connected to the internet? How would it ever know? Switch B, aka the secondary Switch, needs to be connected to the internet in order to play games from Switch 1, the primary, as it will check periodically for account activity. Switch A doesn't need to be online to play games. Now, this is the great part. When you do the virtual game card method and I eject Splatoon 3 and give it to my brother, he doesn't have to be online. I mean, he probably should because it's Splatoon 3, but you get my drift. You don't have to be online. There's not going to be a periodic check. There is a check when you first eject the game and when you first load the game. Be clear of that. I do need an internet connection. You need to prep this before trips. I cannot, we're going on vacation, we're going camping. I don't know why we're bringing our Switches camping because we could probably should enjoy the outdoors and touching grass. But I want to eject Mario Maker 2 and give it to him so he can build a level. Well, I'm trying to get stuff done in Pikmin 4. I need to make sure I do that before I leave, while I have access to Wi-Fi, while I have an internet connection, so that I can eject with the internet connection and load with the internet connection. But once I do that, it's set, okay? And some people I know try different ways to sort of hack this system and make it so Switch B did not need to check in. And maybe you found a way to do that. I never found a great way to do that reliably, and I found it very annoying. And the issue became that when I did this, when the Switch first came out, when I was running SwitchForce with multiple people and we shared games, I would get booted often, or they would get booted often, and we would have to constantly switch back and forth who was the primary user based on who was playing the game that was most important so that they did not get kicked off. And that was terrible, because if I was on Switch B and someone was playing Switch A, even if we were playing totally different games, one used online, one didn't, both used online, both didn't, both were local single-player games, Switch B got kicked off, okay? Now, both consoles also had to share saves, and I don't believe that you need to now. I don't think you have to share saves once you have the game on there. I think you can have separate saves, and it confirms this right here. Once a virtual game card is loaded to a system, not only can you play it without an internet connection, but other user accounts in the system can play too. And that's where it confirms to me that you can have your own saves. It doesn't have to share saves. It's completely separate, and other user accounts on the system can play too. So now, this is even better. Instead of me needing to load my profile onto my brother's Switch and he can only use that, he can use his profile, be building his account, be building up his Switch stats, and not have to check in with the internet and not kick me off my game. Oh my gosh, this is so much better. We already had something similar, but it was convoluted and was very difficult for two to play at once. And basically what virtual game cards does is allow two to play at once. In many ways, people viewed virtual game cards as the path, the transition from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but more so, it's just an upgrade so that when we get to Switch 2, it's a better experience. And for Switch 1, for those of us who still want to keep our Switch 1s or someone else's Switch 1, we can still do this without having this nonsensical primary power. But the biggest change comes with lending games to family members, okay? We already mentioned up here that other user accounts in the system can play too. which is huge. That means if, hey, let's say my cousin has a kid and they want to share the game and they both want to create their own save for Mario Wonder, I can eject Mario Wonder when I'm done with it and I can give it to them. And that could be the same as how I would give them the physical cart, but now I can just digitally do it and take it back when I want. I think. That's the part I'm confused about is, am I able to force eject as the one that lent it, as the one that gave it, or not? I don't know. I'll be curious about that. I looked in the fine print here. It doesn't really say. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can't force eject. Like because it says to move virtual game cards between two systems, you must pair the systems via local wireless and an internet connection, but only when pairing the systems for the first time. So the first pair, they have to be connected, and only two systems can be linked per Nintendo account. That's, you can debate, that's an issue, but that's where family sharing then can come in. But I don't know if I can force eject from someone or not. There might be a way to recall your games, like there's some kind of drone robot. I don't know. But here we go. Lend games to members of your Nintendo account family group. You can also lend out virtual game cards to your Nintendo account family group members, and a family group is a great thing to have. It allows you to Switch Online for much cheaper, and like I mentioned at the top, whether you actually have a family with people that want to play Switch Online, or whether you just have friends, or whether you have just people that you met on Discord, it's a great thing to do to save money and lend games. I can basically become my own Hollywood Video, my own Redbox, my own Gamefly, my own Blockbuster, and I can give games to other people. So I can lend my grandma Kirby and Animal Crossing, and she can have it for 14 days. That is pretty sweet. The full game. Now, they can return it earlier, but it's one game per account for 14 days. After the game is returned, they still get the save data if they borrow it again. So they can borrow it infinitely. Remember, this means they don't have to have the same user profile. All of this nonsense about Switch game sharing, as it was now, required the account to be on both consoles, and now it doesn't have to. As long as we have a family group, all right, you and I, right? I'm not giving you my Zach account. You're not giving me your Tanya account, okay? You're just keeping it for yourself. But you can lend me Mario Maker 2 for 14 days. I can lend you Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for 14 days, and then when we're done, they go back and we can just re-lend it out. Or I can let you borrow another game, which means that you can do things one of two ways. Either you can have the same account on two systems and buy one stockpile of games and share them via the eject, right, and the insert feature. Or we can have two accounts and one stockpile of games and continue to share them, because Nintendo has your best interest at mind, allowing you to still have your save data for when you're able to borrow it again or purchase the game. Now, they could have been nasty and said, hey, you can lend it for 14 days, and then from there you'll have to buy it. One-time use, it's a 14-day trial, it's like, a preview. No, you can lend this out over and over again, and you can actually lend out multiple games to multiple people just one at a time. So we can move these around via the eject feature with two systems in the same account. Or if all 8 of my family members on the family account want to share a collective library, we can do this and just continue lending out the different games. So I play Mario Wonder and I beat it. Boom. I'm going to give it to Molly for 14 days, and then I'll re-give it to her for 14 days like I'm some sort of library. And Molly is going to give me Pikmin 4 after she beat it, so I can play that over and over again. We have our own accounts. We're sharing online so that we make good savings and get Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack for a better amount per month. And now we get to share games, and we can even do it back and forth quickly. Like, hey, I played Pikmin 4 on launch night. I'm now going to bed because I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast. And hey, Tim, I'm going to share it with you, and you can play it. Now, when you lend the game out, I don't think you have access to it. You can also lend out virtual game cards to your Nintendo account family members. I don't think that you have access. So because it's like lending out, that makes me think that you're not just copying it, but you are actually sending it. And that's where the whole virtual game card thing comes in. The virtual game card thing is not about Nintendo trying to eliminate physical games. It's not about them trying to take away your rights of ownership. It's literally trying to make a system where you can better understand how this is working. Because instead of it just being nebulous data on your screen, why can't we just have it a bunch of times? They're making you think of it as a game card that you can give someone, that you can eject and reinsert, that you can lend out and borrow as if it is a singular copy. And you might feel that making it a singular copy actually is a detriment. But as I've shown you here, based on what game sharing was today before this announcement, it's way better. And you only had one copy of it anyways, because as soon as you put it on a second console and they booted it up, the game would stop playing, effectively meaning you only had one copy. Even if you were playing different games, you basically had one game. The previous Nintendo Switch game sharing basically made it so your games were all the hive mind game, and nobody could be playing 2 games from the same account at the same time at all. I know it's confusing, it's really convoluted, but I think actually, in hindsight, after diving in and looking through all this stuff and doing the research, the game card virtual idea is really a good one, and it makes a lot of sense, and it gives you a physical thing to think about in a digital world. And I don't believe Nintendo's erasing physical games. I think we know that every company, every platform holder is moving towards digital because it's better margins for them, and we know that the percentages of digital purchases are definitely growing year by year. So that's inevitable. But right now, you don't have to worry about that. You will be able to buy Mario Kart 9 physically. You'll be able to go into a store and get your Switch 2 in games. In the meantime, I can share with you when I buy Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and I go to sleep, I can send it to your account and then you can return it back to me and then I can send it to you. And as far as I know, there is no limit to how many times you can do this in any of the fine print. You do have to be connected to the internet while you do the eject, the insert, or the share, the lend. But that's the way it goes. Now, this is probably a different story in a different video, but obviously, I hope it's obvious, Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 edition games can only be loaded on a Switch 2. I cannot share with you my Mario 3D Universe exclusive Switch 2 game to your Switch 1, but we should know that. We should expect that. You got it? You get it? Hopefully this video was very helpful. Hopefully it cleared up the misconception. And at the end of the day, if for whatever reason you think this is better, or the virtual game card thing just irritates your mind, Nintendo is telling us that this is an optional feature. So when you download a game, I'm guessing it will give you the option to convert it to a virtual game card, or it'll automatically do it, and then there'll be a menu option within settings for you to turn off the auto change, and you can keep your games as basic normal games, but they're really still virtual game cards. They're just not called that, and they actually have less functionality than they would if you would convert them and bite the bullet and adopt Nintendo's new plan, which I really truly believe is actually good for us. I think they really thought this through, and I think they're being generous. The lend system, the save data, the ability to return, lend out to multiple people. It has to be a different game, but the fact that you can lend it over and over, the fact that they can play with their own user accounts without an internet connection, that's huge. That's great. It's a win. I love this. I think this is one of the best things shown in today's Direct. There were some cool games, but this was a huge win, and I think it's going to be a great way for family groups to really become a thing for Switch 2, to get better prices on online, and then share a collective library of games, especially because I believe Switch 2 is going to have many more titles from third parties that are interesting, which means many more full price titles, which means you might want to buy Assassin's Creed Shadows, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Doom the Dark Ages, Monster Hunter Wilds, Mario Kart 9, 3D Mario, Metroid Prime 4, and more, and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to afford all this? Well, guess what? You, me, and Sally can split it 3 ways and then just share the games via the new virtual game card. That's virtual game cards in a nutshell. Hopefully that's everything you want to know. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if there's any comments or confusion or anything you think I got wrong or I'm missing, but I feel like I got this down pat, and I feel like we cleared up a lot. So hopefully this was a helpful video. Hopefully you enjoyed and are excited now about doing this when it happens next month. In the meantime, you don't have to do it. But stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.